the Republican Party together. Is it a deal maker like Donald Trump?
Well, look, Donald Trump has a lot of experience making deals, and he has proven himself in the business connection to be very artful at it, McGraw. But negotiating with Congress is a lot different than negotiating in business. Every one of the 535 members up there has been elected on his or her own platform. They have their own constituencies, their own vested interests. Just one example, a number of Republicans come from states where Republican governors accepted a significant expansion of Medicaid under Obamacare. And now there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of folks who are covered by this program. And they're deeply alarmed at the cutbacks that are being proposed by the Republican bill. So, and to say nothing of all of the outside interest groups that are now weighing in. Donald Trump, when he was negotiating business deals, didn't have to deal with AARP, millions of senior citizens, highly motivated and highly organized, opposing his deals. He didn't have to deal with Rand Paul and Tom Cotton and a whole bunch of Republican senators who might like Donald Trump, but they like themselves more. And they're using this legislation to build their own profile. In the case of both Paul and Cotton, to start their own presidential campaign. So it's a lot more complicated to deal with Congress than it is to deal in the business environment.
8 years ago, Democrats were together. No one criticized President Obama as he was trying to get this through. But in this instance, you've got three different factions. People who say it goes too far, people who say it doesn't go far enough, and the people say it's just right. But they're all within the same party. How do they coalesce that together?
Well, it's going to be difficult. I mean, they're learning that it's a whole lot easier on Capitol Hill to stop something than pass something. They're learning that it's a whole lot more difficult to be the governing party than the opposition party. I mean, Donald Trump and Republicans went all over the country during the campaign saying repeal and replace. They got a lot of support among Republican voters for that rallying cry. But Donald Trump a few weeks ago said, who knew health care was so complicated? The answer is everybody knew health care was this complicated. And they're finding out, as you point out, there are a lot of different factions, partly over policy, partly over politics, but partly over the fact that the states are different. The states who have much larger elderly populations, much more dependent on Medicaid. You folks know that Medicare is the major health program for senior citizens, but Medicaid pays for an enormous number of folks in nursing homes, particularly those with very limited resources or incomes. So there are so many complicated pieces to put together here, and politically and economically. For instance, take one other example. Republicans hate the idea of a mandate, which was a key part of Obamacare, that everybody had to buy insurance or pay a penalty. They hated that idea, but they're learning that if you don't force people to buy coverage, only sick people will buy policies, and that throws the whole system out of whack. You can't have an insurance company where only sick people buy policies, just like you can't have an auto insurance company where only people who get into accidents buy insurance. So they're finding that there are some hard political truths and hard economic truths that really were not quite so visible when you were traipsing around the country and talking about repealing Obamacare.
Stephen Roberts, I have 1 minute. Mike Pence goes to Kentucky. Was that a shot across the bow at Mitch McConnell and or Rand Paul? Explain the tea leaves there.
Sure. I mean, and you're going to see this week, you're going to see Trump out on the campaign trail. And this is one of the most interesting and one of the most powerful things a president can do. In a legislative situation, campaign in the backyard of key political operatives, key legislative leaders to try to build popular support and push someone like Paul or McConnell closer to Trump's point of view. This is very standard operating procedure, and it would be a mistake to underestimate Donald Trump's political gifts. People have been underestimating him for a long time, but he runs the risk of underestimating how deep-seated these vested interests are that don't necessarily go along with him and his proposals.
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst. Have a good week. Thanks.
Okay, pal.
657 KTRS.